This is the Barry Richards Show. WBSM On Demand.
Without further ado,
Broadcasting live from the WBSM studios and streaming worldwide on the WBSM app. This is the Barry Richards Show. All viewpoints are welcome. Exercise your freedom of speech by calling 508-996-0500. Read Barry's latest articles at WBSM.com and on the WBSM app. Now, New Bedford's talk radio king, Barry Richard.
Mr. Vendor, tear down that Confederate flag. I know people want me to say that. I am not going down that particular road. 508-996-0500. Somebody might be saying, wait a minute, I just turned on. What the hell is he talking about? And one of the vendors over at the feast has a Confederate flag. I was just looking at the picture. And I saw it there last night. Excuse me, when I say I saw the picture came from the feast, Madeira and Hathaway across from the Panther Club. I don't know if it's there today. Maybe somebody went up and said, maybe this isn't a good thing to sell. I don't know. All right, let's hear from you. 508-996-0500. Thank you. Hello.
How you doing?
Winging and wanging.
Yeah. Well, a couple of notes. I don't want to take up too much of your time. About the flag, I have no problem. You know why? All the nonsense and all the garbage and trash I see on people's cars.
Yeah.
You would not believe what I read on these people's cars. So I'm not going to fret about a small Confederate flag compared to what I see around my fair city of New Bedford on these cars. 1. 2, council members need to grow up. We got problems. We don't need to be fretting to go to court because somebody slapped your phone. Let's go, people. Election time is coming up. Let's go. Number 3.
Wait. Well, let's slow down just a little bit there because the counselor is the one that's being charged here.
Right.
It's somebody else charging her. So right. you kind of twisted that around.
I know I kind of twisted it around, but still, I don't know. We just need, I'm just fretting a little bit because what's going down in New Bedford. I'm just talking about New Bedford. We got problems with the traffic laws, sanitation, slum landlords. Another person got killed yesterday, or what, was it Thursday?
Last night. It was Thursday, yes.
And how many is that already this year?
Quite a few. Certainly more, I think, more than last year.
Right. People don't fear the police. We need to get a grip.
So you just said something, and this really does stick into my ribs. Okay. You think that the public should fear the police?
Okay, one of your radio talk show hosts talked about this maybe about a year ago. It's not a fear that they're going to do something to you. They should show more respect. It's a respect thing. If you're driving your car, park your car where you're supposed to park it. If you're supposed to watch out for pedestrians, don't speed. It's out of control.
But a lot of that stuff that you just brought up isn't necessarily positioned to the police. It's just what people do improperly. Right. And sometimes illegally, but it's not like they're trying to thumb their nose at the police.
Well, something's got to give. Those double lines they put on Dartmouth Street? You say not from the Bedford, but they put those 2 solid lines going down Dartmouth Street near my house, near Rural Cemetery, in other parts of New Bedford.
I drive by them all the time, yes.
Right when they put those up, somebody's driving and they cut across the other side of the street and park the wrong way like they're in London. They do that all the time.
Okay.
They park on a sidewalk. They don't care.
I hear that, but that's not disrespecting the police.
I know it. Well, I shouldn't say disrespect. They just don't have any fear that they're not going to get a ticket or anything. Something's got to give.
I think I hear what you're saying, and this goes back to working hard on the wrong thing, which is a part of today's quote of the day from Myron Golden. I think we have to work at the right thing, the correct thing, not something.
Right. But how can I say this? Okay, what's your opinion on that? You know, say just the traffic alone situation.
So that's a pretty broad question. What do you mean by the traffic situation?
Okay, like for example, people park. They just get in their cars. Say there's a bus zone. They'll just park their cars right there and get out. They park on the sidewalks. They park the wrong way on the street. They don't let pedestrians cross where the pedestrians need to cross. All sorts of things.
Okay, so I think I have my answer.
Yeah.
To that, and that would be if you pick up the telephone and call the authorities and let them come down and either slap a ticket or if it's in front of a hydrant, maybe tow the vehicle away.
Right. Okay. I'll take you. Yeah. So my blood pressure won't get up too high. Then you know what? I'll take your advice then.
All right. Well, good luck to you on it. I hear the frustration, man. I hear the frustration. I know from which it comes from. I'm just saying let's work for the proper solution.
There you go. Okay, I'll take your advice on it because I do a lot of walking in the city, and that's why I notice this and I notice that. You know,
nothing worse than this and that. All right. Thanks for the call. I do appreciate it. We continue. Hello.
Good afternoon, Brian.
Good afternoon, Brian.
So, quickly on the walking thing, when I was a kid, they taught us that streets belong to the cars. And if you want to cross the street, you go to a corner. You'll find a crosswalk or a corner. If you can't find a crosswalk or a corner, you go to the curb, and you look to your left, you look to your right, and you wait till there's no cars coming, it's safe to cross, then you do so. I never had a problem crossing the street my whole life. But about the flags on the feast there, I think there would be a problem with them selling like a Black Lives Matter, one of the rainbow flags with a half triangle in the middle of it.
Do I think there would be a problem if they did it?
I think it would be an issue for talk shows to talk about that.
Oh, I think I would certainly talk about it. If you're talking about me.
Okay.
I can't speak for my colleagues here, but I certainly would talk about it. Like I said, it's okay to sell. I mean, there would be nothing wrong with them selling it. Just like there's nothing wrong with selling the Confederate flag. But there would be something wrong if this vendor tried to sell the swastika flag.
Yeah, I think they could sell whatever kind of flag they want to.
They can, but you don't think that holy hell would come down if they had one of those flags sitting outside their store and for sale?
I'm not so sure these days. I see people riding around with that stuff, maybe on the motorcycles or on the helmets, or.
But they're not sitting there selling it. They're trying to sell their position, maybe, but they're not, as a vendor, trying to get people to come into their shop. And
I think it's offered as one of the things for the people to come and buy. They're selling. I think the reason that they're selling the Confederate flags, I could be mistaken. I think the reason they're selling the Confederate flags is that they're a counterpoint to the Black Lives Matter flags. My thought, like I said, I could be wrong, but I think the Confederate flag these days doesn't mean like let's go back to whatever existed in the South before the Civil War happened. I think the Confederate flag these days represents, hey, all lives matter. not just Black Lives Matter or Rainbow Flags Matter.
So I think that's
what do you think about that?
That's taking an advantage. I think you're wrong.
Okay.
I think you're wrong. I think that, but I do believe that many other people feel the same way that you do.
What do you think the Confederate flag represents?
I think the These days?
For the people who buy that flag.
I think the Confederate flag represents a lot of things to a lot of people. And therein lies the problem, or maybe not a problem. Again, just because certain people are offended by that flag, it doesn't mean everybody is.
Do you think the Confederate flag represents an adherence to the view that we should go back to the days of pre-Civil War days?
Oh, I think to some people it does. Absolutely.
Really?
I maybe not so much going back to slavery, but I think a lot of people down south, again, only from conversations that I've had, that they want to remember that it was a war of the states. It wasn't necessarily a war over slavery, and that, especially the battle flag, the Confederate battle flag, means a lot to the folks down south.
Oh, so you mean you think that it means that they had a bunch of stuff from the North forced down their throats, and look where it's gotten us today. I
think to many people it means states' rights. That's what they were fighting for, states' rights. And the Union, under Abraham Lincoln, took those rights away from them. In fact, they went to war to take those rights away from the South.
I don't know how many people will buy the flags down. And I think it'd be interesting to talk to the guy who was actually selling the flags and find out how he did with them. I don't know how many people came by and bought them, but I think the people that buying the flags, that would have bought the flags down there at the feast, I don't think they were thinking about state rights. I think it's
correct. I think you're absolutely correct. That's why I say it means a lot of things to a lot of different people.
Yeah.
But I don't. Your thought process that it also means something that is counter to the Black Lives Matter. Counterpoint to Black Lives Matter is certainly on point. Hey, thanks for the call.
Take care.
I do appreciate it. 508-996-0500. Hello.
Hey, Brian, what's going on?
Winging.
So, in regards to the shooting and the violence in the city, one of your past callers said they don't respect the police. We have to remember that the police are the law enforcers. I think the people who are committing these crimes don't respect the law itself. All right, so they don't look at the law and say, you know what, that's the law, I'm going to respect the law. They don't care. These people have no respect for the law or their community. That's the problem, and that's why you have an escalation in crime. People have they don't have little to no shame in what they're doing, whether it's shoplifting, we see the massive shoplifting going on around the country, just a group of people, 10, 15 people, and they just rush a store and rush out. They don't care. They have there's no repercussions. And if there are, the repercussions are so minimal that they're like, whatever, I'll do the stint, and whether it's, a year, 18 months, and I'll come out. And in regards to violent crime, I don't think those people are so numb and so repressed with anger that it doesn't matter to them. Community doesn't matter to them. You know what? The only thing that matters to them is their group of people, their gang that they're involved in. And that's the main problem, is lack of respect for the law. And if we're going to talk about fixing the problem, the judges, I've spoken on this a few times, the judges that let them out, they have to be held accountable if they let them out early before trial. But they also have to realize that the judge has parameters that are set up by your legislature. So your legislature is the kingpin or the linchpin that holds the entire thing together. So if you want to get tougher on crime, you talk to your state rep, you talk to your state senator, and create laws that have a stricter boundary. And then we need the law enforcement to actually enforce the law. We had a couple callers talk about, parking tickets. We don't have the manpower to enforce parking tickets in the entire city. Our people, the municipal employees, there's not enough of them to enforce certain laws. And there's certain laws that are just, they're almost becoming the new blue law, where we don't even enforce them anymore. And we're
I think you hit on something. Part of the problem is we have too many laws. There's redundancy. Human trafficking is supposed to be a crime, but human trafficking sounds like kidnapping to me. And you can also hear us through our WBSM app. And by the way, if you don't like what you're hearing with me filling in for Barry today, you can always tune in 7 o'clock tomorrow morning when I'm me. Hello. Yes? Did I lose you? All right. 508-996-0500. Thank you. Hello.
Calls ago, and I just listened to your last caller. I might have misspoke about the police not fearing.
All right, that one time is good. Thank you. I do appreciate it. Let us try to continue. Hello.
Hey, what's up? What's going on?
Winging.
Hey, in Watertown, Wisconsin, a teenager got arrested for reading from the Bible on a speaker. They handcuffed him, took his bike, and arrested him. You can Google
so is that against the law?
Apparently, these 5 or 6 police, it was, during that place. Could have been during some pride event, maybe. It might have been. But, come on now. I've been in church almost the times. And in the summertime when the doors were open, and so many times during the mass that I go to, you had cars driving by screaming obscenities, blasted up, wicked loud. Nobody arrested them. So we're going toward crazy, crazy times, Brian. I want to talk about the topic that you put on.
Which one?
Topics, excuse me, if you give me a few. The swastika, right? A lot of people can't even tell the difference that there's 2 of them. There's one that looks like a crooked Z, and the other one looks like the crooked S. I play a joke on your friends and put the
So
one
wasn't the crooked S for the SS? Secret Service?
That's one of the Nazis used.
Yes.
Socialists. There's a crooked Z, and most people, I bet you can't even tell the difference. Most people graduate high school. If you showed them a crooked Z and you said, "Look at this, let's hang this on our front door," they go, "No," and they have no idea.
So I think you're absolutely correct, but to take your point to another step, right here in this country, there are people that don't know the difference between the Confederate flag or the Confederate battle
Yes.
And at least that's right here. It's the regular, not the battle
flag. This is what I think about them. I think we're taught so much of a false history that some labels, certain things get attached to them. Then people associate an emotion to that symbol. I'm not for banning symbols, but if he wants to sell them there, sell them, because we don't get the truth about that war. And until we do, I don't think that flag should be as demonized to some people or adored to others. I think it represents different things. So if you get offended by it, don't buy a shirt.
I think you're absolutely right.
That war.
Yeah, I agree with you. Don't even bother. Hey, thanks for the call. I do appreciate it. Let us continue. Hello.
Hey there again, Brian.
Hey, how you doing?
Can you hear me now okay?
I hear you fine. Thank you. Much better.
It's very interesting that the last caller, Bob, mentioned the swastika, because that's actually what I was going to bring up in relation to the the Confederate flag. So, the Confederate flag probably was okay. It was certainly on the South Carolina flag for a long time until recently. But symbols change over time, and there's two houses in a sonnet that have F. Joe Biden flags, but one of them has a Confederate flag. And every time I drive by, I go, are you thinking you're from the South, or are you just adopting this as a Northerner to be obnoxious, or are you a white supremacist? Sets up those questions. Just like the N-word is not acceptable because it's a word of oppression. The flag, the Confederate battle flag or Confederate flag is a symbol of oppression because it changed over time. Sorry, but it changed. And it's kind of funny he brought up the swastika because up until 1939, did you know that Coca-Cola used the swastika on pendants that they used to give out? That the Boy Scouts adopted it, and the Girls Club of America used, their magazine was called the swastika. American military units in World War I actually put it on the side of their planes as late as 1939. And the reason why is what Bobby was saying was the swastika was actually a Hindu symbol of prosperity and health, good health. But it changed over time because it was hijacked by Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. So now you can't if you put a flag with a swastika up and say, hey, I just want to symbolize health and prosperity, you're going to have 50 people, burn your house down.
I think you're absolutely correct. And I brought up the fact that, it's all right to have the Confederate flag at this vendor spot and sell Confederate flags. But no way are you going to do the same thing with the Nazi flag.
Well, there may be a point where the Confederate flag, you can't do that either. I know that when I was growing up, and I'm as old as you are, friends of mine had the Confederate flag on the wall, but that was because they, they liked, what was that car show from the South? Oh, man, I can't even think of the name of it. They had the General Lee with... Yes,
I know the show. I can't think of it right now. Dukes of Hazzard.
Dukes of Hazzard, because it's like, it's a Dukes of Hazzard thing. But, it wasn't... I never would have thought of it as a symbol of oppression then. Maybe it is or isn't now, but, I think that if South Carolina takes it off their main state flag and people feel that it's a symbol of oppression, then, you got to treat it that way because it's just a symbol.
It is a symbol. And you know what? People feel differently, and passions run deep in the South, especially the Deep South. And certain people aren't going to change for whatever the reason.
Sure.
So, but here in the United States, you do have that freedom of expression, that freedom of speech. And so if this vendor believes that he or she can sell a bunch of flags, including that flag and T-shirts and whatnot with that flag outside his or her shop, I don't know if it's a he or a she, all the power to him. Let him try. I'm not going in the store, but that's me.
No, I'm the same way. It's like, and I didn't understand that it was, I thought it was just a flag that was hung up, but if it's a flag being sold to other flags, then, people are going to walk in that store and buy a hammer and sickle flag or a Russian flag for one reason or another. And does that mean that, again, it's just a symbol, so whatever.
But the thing is, you can buy that flag without any problem. You could even buy the hammer and sickle. I don't think Russia uses that flag anymore. But to the point, it's a collector's item for somebody maybe. There are all kinds of flags out there. The Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. If somebody wanted a Rising Sun flag, sure. We beat the British 2 times. 1812 and the Revolutionary War. People had British flags. These are nations that we've had physical, bloody wars with. Certainly the War of the States for the Confederate flag. But that Nazi flag, folks aren't going to get away. I mean, just imagine that vendor having a Nazi flag with all the other flags outside his setup right there.
Yeah,
no way,
it up a notch, doesn't it? Yeah, for sure.
Is it there? You talk about the double standard. That's it.
Exactly right. Okay, sir. I'll see you Saturday.
I do appreciate it. Look forward to it. 508-996-0500. A lot of stuff on the table. Did you go to the feast last evening? Night number 1. The sun looks like it's trying to beat out the clouds at this particular time. It will be evening number 2 starting at 5 p.m. and then noontime on Saturday and Sunday. A lot of people. And what's surprising to me, all the folks that went, and I know that quite a few that went to the feast last night, listen to this radio station and call this radio station. Nobody saw the Confederate flag at that vendor. Again, Madeira and Hathaway, not far from the Panther Club. Nobody saw that. It didn't make the Standard Times online edition. Peter Pereira had more than a dozen pictures. Maybe he had a couple of dozen. I didn't count them all. I can tell you definitely more than 12. Not one picture displayed that particular vendor and the flags. Are there a lot of vendors there? Sure. But how do you miss that? If you are an eagle eye photographer like Peter Pereira, how do you miss that? How do you miss it? And why do I say that? Because somebody got the picture to me. Another person said that another social media establishment here in town had a video of it up on their website. I didn't see it, so I don't want to come out and just boast about it, but certainly there was someone there that got the picture and got that picture not only to me, but over to Barry, because Barry posted it up on his Facebook before going out of town. So people saw it, but apparently folks don't want to talk about it. And that might be even a larger question. Why wouldn't folks want to talk about it? Is it something that's okay, just going to let it go by? Brian, why are you making such a big deal about it? Well, because if I were the vendor and I wanted to put in, and I don't, please don't get me wrong. Please don't get me wrong. I have no love for Nazis or the Nazi flag. But shoot, if you can put up the Confederate flag, then why can't you put up the Nazi flag? Just like the Rising Sun flag and the British flag and all the other countries that we have been at war with that we don't like. And all of a sudden, it's all right to put up their flag. Hello.
Hi, Brian. This is Jacob Ventura, local attorney. Wanted to call in and comment on the battle flag issue.
Please.
Yesterday I had a few folks contact me about the battle flag that was displayed out on Madeira Ave. And after review, the issue here, the facts matter. And the issue here is that this vendor, it's probably an oversight, right, from the feast committee or the city, whoever's issuing this vendor license. The vendor, though, is located within the new security perimeter on Madeira Ave, so it's the first thing you see when you pass through security. So it's a bad look for the city. It's a bad look for the feast. I've got direct Madeiran heritage. It's embarrassing. We've got people coming in this weekend to visit the feast. We're probably going to take them to a different security entrance. And so those are the facts, and folks are on notice. So I think there's an easy fix here. If there's anyone from City Hall listening or from the feast committee, someone probably ought to go to that vendor and just have a chat.
So you bring this up, and I'm listening, and I'm thinking to myself, how did they miss it? Maybe not at the beginning. Maybe we're doing flags. Maybe nobody said anything at that time. But certainly somebody from the feast, somebody from the city has walked by. Are all the vendors doing okay? Do you need any extra water or something like that? Want some malasada? You know what I mean? And oh my goodness, why is that flag there?
Right, and look, no one's arguing that they don't have a legal right to sell a flag or a customer doesn't have a legal right to purchase a flag. It's protected under the First Amendment. This is more of a judgment call for the feast and the city. And I'll tell you, ironically, after doing some research and looking at some of the same photos that you saw, The opening ceremony yesterday, which was attended by city councilors, the mayor, the congressman, the lieutenant governor, the state auditor, this flag was flying not more than 20 or 25 feet from the main podium where the opening ceremony was. And so my suspicion is it's probably just an oversight. And I'm hoping that if anyone from the Feast Committee, I know they're very busy and they're great and hardworking and they've got a lot to do. But if anyone is listening from the Feast Committee or City Hall, whoever is responsible for issuing these licenses, it would be an easy fix. There are 3 more nights. Someone probably ought to go to that vendor and say, hey, best judgment is to probably, continue to sell your flags, but maybe take that one down.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can always have them in the back room there, and if somebody is interested, you can always sell one to them.
That's right.
I got you, man. Thanks for the call.
All right.
I do appreciate it. 508-9960-500 to get on to the program today. Brian in for Barry. Hello.
Boo.
Boo? Okay, well, hiss. You want to boo? I'll hiss.
83.
Hike. I was actually talking to somebody yesterday. They were complaining. They get to a certain part of 195 on the other side of Fall River, and they can't pick up the radio station. And so I said, what are you worried about? And he goes, well, I want to be able to hear shows. And I said, well, you've got a smartphone. You've got a fairly new car. All you have to do is hook up your phone to your car radio, I should say, to the Bluetooth. And you will get us crystal clear, no matter where. Now, there are going to be some dropouts every once in a while. But it's not going to be like that static fade out, fade in, fade out like that. Most of the time, it's line of sight, crystal clear. And it's a lot easier to do. And thanks to the folks over at South Coast Towing, you can download the WBSM app for FREE free. And then listen to us any time of the day, whether it's at home, but certainly in your automobile. This is the way to do it. This is the 21st century of listening to this radio station. 508-9960-500. We've talked about a lot of things on the program today. Certainly the fact that the Confederate flag, it might be out right now, but certainly the feast is not open. But it certainly was there yesterday, and a few people saw it, and we did get some people talking about it. I asked Michael Rock when I came to the station today. He said that, he had a good time at the feast last night, and I said, so what did you think of the Confederate flag? And he goes, huh? Confederate flag? He didn't see it, so I showed him the picture. And he goes, and then he goes, for sale. And the fact of the matter is, it was inside the feast grounds. And not that it's, as Jacob correctly stated, not that you shouldn't be able to do it. It is protected free speech. But is it the wise thing to do? And, Jacob is bringing up the fact that, look, you're highlighting New Bedford here. You're going to have a lot of people coming into town. And even Jacob is making sure that his guests don't enter through that particular gate. There are only 4 entrances now into the feast. And so he's going to make sure that he and his guests come in from a different way. I don't know that means that they'll never meander their way down to that particular area. But, I just find it hard to believe that so many people didn't see it. Now, I know why I didn't see it. I wasn't there. But people thought enough to make sure that I got the pictures, and I took a look, and I'm thinking to myself, look, it's okay to do it, but, it's not something I would do, and certainly not appealing to me. Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
I believe that if you never mentioned it, hardly anybody would have even noticed it. It's
Really?
a part of our history, and those that want to forget history are doomed to repeat it. And
It is a part of our history.
It's just a part of history, and you're making a big deal out of nothing. And if you never mentioned it, hardly anybody would have even noticed it.
Well, isn't that a shame?
Yeah, and it's not a big thing. I mean, what's the big deal, really?
You think it's not a big deal?
No, it's not a big deal.
Not a big deal to you?
No, I lived in the South all my summers growing up in deep South Alabama. Never had any problem. I'm a white man. And it's a part of their heritage down there. They've all got it.
Sure.
It's everywhere.
No, you're absolutely correct. It's not a part of the heritage up here.
I don't know, but I think you're making more out of it than anybody up here even really thinks about it that much. I mean, I don't think anybody would have even said anything about it.
Well, maybe that's the problem. People wouldn't say anything. I am saying something because I think something needs to be said. So I'm going to go back to the way that I've been positioning this. If it had been a Nazi flag, would it be a big deal then? Oh, man, you're going in and out.
You're really. It's the wind. It's a very big difference. That's a totally different subject.
So you see, to black people, that is the Confederate flag is the Nazi flag.
Well, how about the literally thousands of black slave owners that lived?
Oh, I'm not. Look, I'm not denying that.
Start getting into the, I mean, it's nonsense. Really, it's just a flag.
It's just a flag. Well, part of that is true. It is just a flag.
It's part of American history. You want to bury American history?
I didn't say bury American history. Too? Did I say that? Or are you trying to put those words into my mouth?
You're comparing it to the Nazi flag.
What I'm trying, you're damn right. I am comparing it because there's a double standard. Because the Nazi flag, the Nazis were here as much as folks from the Confederacy were here. Though we had a war with Nazi Germany, we had a war with Japan. Okay, but we allow people to sell a Japanese flag.
Right.
We allow people to sell a British flag. We had a war with them.
And a lot of people are flying those blue and yellow flags, and a lot of people would argue that that's actually a Nazi flag. So, I mean, how far do you want to take it?
Well, I don't know how far you take it.
Do you want to go?
I do. As far as I want to take it. Since you asked, as far as I want to take it. Thank you for your call. Got to take a break. I see you there on the line, so I'll get to you in just a second. So the point is, if it's okay to fly the Confederate flag, then it should be okay to fly the Nazi flag.